What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS. Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Kevin Moore Show. Now on today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guest, Carol Weakland. Now Carol is an actress, author, audiobook narrator, and storyteller. She has also worked in film, television, commercials, and voiceover. Now Carol is also known as a fairy whisperer and communicator, and she joins me today to discuss this and so much more. Carol, welcome to the show.
I am so pleased and honored to be here. Thank you, Kevin.
Now, just to explain to the audience, you're in the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, where bandwidth isn't is at a cost, right? But we've got you by audio.
This is the truth.
Yeah, it's the truth. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, everything works out the way it's supposed to be. And for those who are going to moan to say, well, we want to see her video, unfortunately, that's just not going to happen right now. But we've got you here in audio.
Perhaps another time.
Perhaps another time. That's right. Exactly.
Right.
Now, I only gave you a sort of short intro there for someone who's lived a very full life. Do you know what I mean? But I always think it's worth just going back to the beginning, back to the roots of who you are and where this started for you. Now, we have had a bit of a chit-chat off air, haven't we? Where we've sort of, you know, got to know a little bit about
last week.
Yeah, got to know a little bit about you. There are some missing gaps. I mean, I don't know if folks know, I am in a strange place right now where I'm making finishing off a true crime ufology docuseries based on Project Camelot and Kerry Cassidy and the top whistleblower Mark Richards that she's doing. And when I knew about you and I knew about your work in Camelot and Avalon, I thought this is going to be fascinating from a different perspective, right? So we're taking away all the conspiracy, right? And we're,
definitely.
And we're bringing in some of that magic fairy dust, right, in this. But I just want to say, first of all, right, you know, when we think of fairies and stuff like that, right, we normally think of the Disney Channel, right, or something cartoonish. But what you're stating here is some of that stuff that's in the cartoons is really based on a premise that there is something more to this idea of fairies and the elementary world, and you've kind of devoted some of your life to that as well, haven't you?
I have indeed. I'm what you call a fairy whisperer, and that means that I actually commune and talk to these beings, which, as you said, are quite often depicted as Tinkerbell, you know, from the Disney series. And in fact, they are light beings sent from the divine down to act as a guardian to either an animal, plant, flower, tree. any aspect of nature. So we call them earth angels. That's the fairy.
Earth angels, that's right. Now, if we go back to ideas of Lemuria, and I've done obviously shows on Lemuria and Atlantis way back in the past, nothing too recently, right? If we go back to some of the times that we've been told existed before we have records of it, in a sense, or those records have been destroyed, right? Then Lemuria was very much, as I understand, into a sort of fifth dimensional kind of phase in its existence, wasn't it? It has shifted way beyond where we are now, and it was more into the sort of, if we are to believe the stories, the sort of light bodies. And do you think that's where some of that elementary realm was as well, in a sense, in some sort of physical form?
Yes, and honestly, it's been revealed to me that I actually had a lifetime in Lemuria as a mermaid, which would be a water fae. And it's very interesting that you should bring this up, because the information that comes through was it was a very, as you said, nature-based conglomeration of light beings that lived and breathed, their existence through all aspects of nature and communing with the elements of earth, air, water, and fire. So I think, you hit the nail on the nose as you introduced that.
Yes. Well, I thought it was just, I mean, I know we haven't even got into your story yet, right? But just the basis of that, there was something back then that was a potential that this energy came from, or was part of existence, or was manifested in, a version of what you're communicating with. And before we get into your story, this is all part of it. Are you communicating with these elementals right now?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Now, is that something you sort of offer as a sort of thing for people?
I call them the earth angels or nature spirits. That's sometimes easier for people to understand, are working so hard on behalf of the earth and her inhabitants right now to help us through this time of tremendous upheaval and transformation. So they are so excited and, really want to talk to everyone today and get their message out.
Absolutely. So you do communicate with them, but do you give, I want to use the earth word, readings to people where you offer this as a service as well?
I do indeed. People are welcome to go to my website, everythingfairy.co. And you can find throughout the pages, I will have different blurbs about different kinds of readings I do. But yes, I definitely give fairy readings. And you can also, if you're interested in that, contact me at my email, which is carolweakland0706 @gmail.com.
Okay, well, we're going to link all this in the description below. And I guess we can get into your story now. I've just got so many questions that are past, tell us about how it all began for you and all this kind of stuff. But it is important. So going back to a younger age, right? You've told this story many times, right? What age was it when you had your first sort of, shall we say, awakening phase one?
Well, as most people would say, it comes throughout your younger life, but the major one that I always talk about came when I was in my teens, my late teens. And to preface, I was basically performing in the musical Camelot, which is interesting as the role of Guinevere, and came home from that performance. It was a matinee, very tired and wanted to go into nap phase. And I went into what we call twilight dreaming, which is half asleep, half awake, and was addressed by this feminine voice, older in time, which eventually I came to know as Morgen of Avalon, who basically said to me, return to Camelot, return to Avalon. And my teenage self sat up in bed and said, what was that? I couldn't believe it. I was like, and it just was the beginning of a beautiful communication with Morgen, with also my higher self, with the Fae of Avalon. And it began the writing of my book series, Morgen of Avalon, which continued to evolve from that first meeting, then into dream time and into visions where the information would come through Morgan and the Sisters of Avalon in the Mystery School.
Now, that play, to do with the Camelot play, was that a high school play? Or
Yes.
Yes. And
no, this was after high school now. I was already in the college area. So it was a community theater that I was doing at that time. And I just remember being on stage with and everything was getting very misty. And it wasn't until I got home that it felt like I went to Avalon for the first time, in that meeting with Morgan. So that was the preface to my actually going.
Just remind us, for those who don't know about the Camelot play, what is that? Because I've heard it many times.
Yes. Absolutely. It's a musical that was written, right now the name's Lerner and Lower in my mind. They did the music part of the show. And it was very well known, I think, starting back in the 1960s, where it was done by Richard Burton and Julie Andrews. Richard Burton was Arthur, King Arthur. Julie Andrews was Guinevere, and Robert Goulet was Lancelot. So that was a very famous play back in that time period.
You mentioned Morgan there as well. Now we're going to get into Morgan a bit more, but let's just, what is Morgan to you, and what is he now, or it now?
Yes, she to me is, I want to say an aspect of the oversoul, of my oversoul. And I really work so closely with her. At times I feel like I am her. It's kind of what happens when you're working that close with, she's considered a fairy goddess. So you can almost say a deity of sorts. And she is, basically the head of Avalon's Mystery School. And people might say, well, what is that? Now, for me, the way this comes through to me is she is the head of the Mystery School from the fairy tradition. That means there are high fae teachers that literally teach those who are open to learn about elemental studies. So we can be teaching about the sacredness and intelligence of water, of earth, air, fire, of flower. We were talking about how the teachers teach about all aspects of nature, including, the flowers, the rocks, the trees. And Morgan, as I said, is the head of this. And so as she started addressing me at a very young age, she was giving me the information for the school, but then also revealing to me a story of herself told from a very, from her perspective, a very ancient perspective, where she was not this wicked half-sister to King Arthur, but truly the fairy goddess of Avalon, King Arthur's former love and healer, the being that helped him create peace in Britannia, the divine feminine to his divine masculine. And I know that's a very, very different take on her than has been brought forth in literature and film. And so that is where I come into my communication with Morgan. It's bringing that aspect of her story out through the Morgen of Avalon series in book form. And then I also do a one-woman play of her story, as well as I've written the screenplay for what I feel will be eventually a film of this as well.
And you're connecting to this aspect of Morgan even now?
Yes. Yes, she's very, very happy and very pleased about this interview.
Right. Okay. Do you think that there were many people that have had sort of the Camelot past life experience, and for some reason, why are they waking up now remembering this, and what is important about that experience?
That's a great question. So many of us right now, because of all the high energies that are hitting the earth right now, during what we call the ascension of Earth from third dimensional reality, which is what we see around us right now, the dark, what we see with the COVID, the fires, people, kind of at war, to a higher dimensional unity consciousness of love and light. And this is very much waking people up in record numbers right now. There's high frequency light that's being literally beamed down from the divine through angels, through fae even, to everyone. And so as a result, more and more people are picking up on what they're saying right now. And by they, I mean my guides are saying is kind of like a universal life story that connects us all in some aspect to Camelot. And I do believe so many people that were not only present to Camelot and were there living it, but so many tap into it now because of the universal story that is presented there. I think that's what you're tapping in on, Kevin, when you say so many people are now, really resonating with it. It's a universal story that is about a once and future king. Arthur is always there, coming out of the mists and coming back to help in times of difficulties. And I work not just with Morgan, but with Arthur, with Merlin, with Guinevere, all of them. But Morgan is my major source in Avalon.
So it's also, and I'm not going to try to put you on the spot here, right? But I feel it's also an energy that's misused as well. Let me rephrase that. I also feel it's easy to misuse the energy of Camelot as well, because it stood for something good, didn't it?
It did. And you're right. The way I'm going to answer that, because I work with Morgan, is the way that Morgan was kind of twisted in this. And then we can equate it back to how Camelot can be twisted. Okay, so she is such an important part of Arthurian legend. And as I mentioned, she literally, if you look at the first writings where she is mentioned, that's the Vita Merlini by Geoffrey of Monmouth, who was a Welsh poet back in, I believe, the 1100s. He represents her as the goddess of Avalon, King Arthur's healer and his love. And what I have been gifted with is understanding that as this was translated from the original Latin text that Geoffrey brought forth into a kind of English, British, we'll say, it was done by monks who viewed Morgan, a magical woman, as evil. Anna, evil half-sister to King Arthur, no longer his love and his healer. So not everyone's going to agree with me on how that happened, but that's what has been given to me. All right. So if we see what's been done to Morgan, we can also see this in Guinevere, the way that she, in many people's eyes, brought Camelot down by, breaking Arthur's heart and running off with, some would say Lancelot, some would say Madrot, just depending on which version you're listening to. She is a goddess, and as I commune with her, an earth goddess who is supremely misunderstood. They want me to bring forth right now that she and Arthur had an understanding from the very beginning of their union that she was in love with someone else, and he let her go, released her, so it wasn't like she was running off. So they wanted that to come through very, very strongly. And then you can look at other characters, such as Nimue, another one that has been kind of saddled with the destruction of Merlin. I know I'm giving you all the divine feminines right now, but now if you look at see what has been done, if you see what's done to the divine feminines, you can also see how some people will then take and twist Arthur, who literally, the way it's been gifted to me as far as knowledge, was a divine peace weaver. So he not only brought about this system of Camelot, the Knights of the Round Table, and supreme justice for all, he literally was uniting Britannia, which, you are from that area, so that is no easy task. And it was larger than Britannia itself. It was progressing outwards before Camelot actually, fell. So he was a divine peace weaver, gifted with a sword that literally has galactic energies and magic to it that would allow him to accomplish his tasks that he needed to accomplish in life. And yet, as we know, when we come on the earth plane, all kinds of interference can happen where you may fulfill part of your contract, but it is my understanding he did not fulfill all of it. And that was because dark forces came in and he could not complete what he came to do. But this is why he is the once and future king. He is continuously coming back in energy and assisting in times of need. And in fact, he has so many incarnations that are working for peace right now. So everyone should be very conscious that although these are figures, beings from long ago, they are very much active and working for peace and unification on this earth plane right now. That's really important to know.
Obviously, as I'm working on a documentary. Yeah, Kerry Cassidy thinks she's Guinevere reincarnated. Bill Ryan was told he was he told he was King Arthur reincarnated? Something like that. He never believed it.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, this was true. Well, Kerry Cassidy definitely thinks she's Guinevere. And then you've got people like her top whistleblower, Mark Richards, who was obsessed by Camelot and wanted to become King Arthur. He was on point to take over, or in his head to take over Marin County and to reclaim it as the new Camelot. And it's so crazy to see. Here's the future. Here's someone that thinks that she's Guinevere, someone that's locked up thinking he's King Arthur. And they've met. He's now got a platform through Project Camelot. We've got the word Camelot in it, right? And just to see how that energy's all gone together there, right? And then when Kerry Cassidy and Bill Ryan split, obviously Bill Ryan has got Project Avalon, and we'll get into the meanings of them. But if it's out there already, do you know what I mean? It's out there in so many different ways. Does that make sense?
It does. And the important thing that they want me to bring forth, and it's not that I know, particularly the answer to this, but they want people to be aware that when you have beings of the magnitude of someone like King Arthur, Guinevere, Morgan, Merlin, they, when they reincarnate, can do so in so many different beings all at once. So each of those beings that you just mentioned might literally tap into an aspect of that original energy. And it's not saying that they are the perfect incarnation of that being, but they literally have an aspect of that being within them. And so they wanted me to bring that forth, and I'm not go ahead. Yeah, I'm not saying that either of them are or are not. I don't know. They haven't gifted me with any such information. Um, but, it's certainly possible.
Well, that's really interesting what you're saying, because that almost leads to the idea that sometimes our soul taps into other aspects that we may have experienced in previous lives, so that we do something in this one that is needed for that energy to fulfill something that you're here to do, right? I wonder if we do that with other versions of ourselves, where, like maybe I'm tapping into some other aspect that I was before, and it's propelling me in a certain direction that's needed, just to, maybe either clear some of that karma, or for some other reasons which we can't even understand.
Yes, that's a really, really interesting point. And yes, I do believe wholeheartedly that as different things come up in our lives, we have that ability to draw from past lifetimes the information that is needed to help us, whatever is going on, help us to navigate those times. And I think so many of us are doing that right now, because we're being bombarded with so many images of things that are going on in the world, and we're thinking, what in the world can we do to help? Or perhaps we are literally experiencing it firsthand. So how do you rise above that? You tap into that aspect, of another lifetime that you've had. Or, my guides are saying right now, you literally tap into the divine through angels. For me, it's angels and the fae that I would go to. They're also bringing in animal guides too. I'm sure so many people who listen to you are attuned to the animals. They are speaking so loudly to us right now. So that would be another person, being that you could turn to in times of needing guidance and energy for navigating current situations. I know I went off your topic, but I sort of answered.
It's all connected. Think about it. It's all connected, because, I was actually going to bring up the nature spirits. That was something that we were going to talk about, because in this short amount of time, we've got so much to talk about, right? And nature spirits are an important part of your work. Just because you've tapped into Camelot and Avalon, that's just the way that you're bringing it through to show people, how that energy is being used in this lifetime for a good purpose, right? With the work that you do. But we can also have the ability to bring in the nature spirits and animals as well, as you say, is something that we actually, a lot of us have in the background that work with us, right? It doesn't have to be something so famous, is my point. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. That's so well said. So yes, we can connect with when we're walking outside. If an animal really catches your eye or crosses your path, you can almost be certain that that animal is communicating something to you. And you might be out from the animal. What is the first thing that comes to your mind? Okay. So those are the things that we usually utilize. For communicating with nature spirits or the fae, they literally call out to us every time we're out in nature, and people do not necessarily know what's going on. So if you're out walking in nature and you get a gust of air that has the most incredible fragrance to it, and you look around and there are no flowers, this is a flower fairy reaching out to you. And flower fairies, I know you can't see me, but I've got flowers all around me right now because the vibration is so high from the flower fae. They literally will help you gain a sense of joy. The flower fairies are all about beaming joy, and each particular flower has its own fairy that has a very particular message and goal in life, a mission it's supposed to bring forth. And they're wanting me to mention right now, if you're wanting to learn more about that, I have a children's book called Secrets of the Flower Fairies that is for the young and the young in heart. And it literally talks about the flower fairies and how each of them, like I said, has a different kind of mission that it brings forth and gift to share with the world. So that's just a little brief introduction. They want me to mention too that if you're if you're walking and you see a feather plop down in front of you, this is traditionally an air fairy or an air spirit, if you want to look at it that way, wanting to work with you. And the traditional thing to do would be, they're saying the proper etiquette is for you to pick up the feather, stroke it 3 times, blow on it 3 times, and then turn in a circle 3 times. This is literally activating your connection between yourself and the air fae. Air faes, they're wanting me to say, are all about manifestation and goals. And so connecting with an air spirit or air fairy can help you literally in your manifestations. Water fairies tend to come through our dreams to us. So if you're dreaming a lot of water, you can bet a water fairy is behind that. And whatever's happening in the water would be indicative of the message coming through. They're wanting me, oh my gosh, they're having me go up on all these tangents. I'm sorry. They're wanting me to mention that water dragons, we haven't talked about dragons yet, are also very prevalent right now in people's dreams. So you might be dreaming and you're seeing a dragon in the water. Perhaps you're even riding a dragon in the water. This is a very high dimensional being coming through to you. Oh my God, they literally are making me shake right now with the energy, the dragons. They are coming through to you right now as a teacher, helping you to realize your truth. And literally, they are saying the power of the dragon's breath, which, if you are unafraid and working with a dragon, they're saying everyone has a dragon right now. It's just a matter of connecting with your dragon. If you work with that dragon's breath, it can balance you at any point. If you are sad, if you are angry, frightened, stepping into a dragon's breath is not going to burn you. It literally will cleanse you from head to toe. All right, that is really going off, I know, but that came through so strong.
No, that's beautiful. Thank you very much for sharing that as well. And
Yes.
I'm just going to, what I'm going to do here is just go back a little bit, okay? And just ask you, just to finish off the whole Camelot thing as well. So we've got Camelot and we've got Avalon. And just for those who may not know, just what is the difference between Avalon and Camelot?
Great question. So Camelot, we're going to put it in very modern day terms, is a utopia that King Arthur Pendragon created that would allow people from all over Britannia to come and voice their problems and their challenges and help them receive solutions through a roundtable gathering, which literally would encompass, all these different beings from Britannia, as well as Avalon. Now, Avalon is, the best way for me to put it in this time frame, is another dimension. In King Arthur's time frame, it literally was leagues away from where Camelot was basically on this earth plane. It is very much an area where people would go to learn from the mystery schools, and the mystery schools would teach all about magic and the magic of nature, the elements, And they're saying also the connection to the divine. And we might all say, oh, but we know we're connected to the divine. But you have to remember that back in King Arthur's time period, people might believe that, but they had so many things daily that would be hitting them that were like fight or flight in their lifetimes, that they would go and learn about their connection to the divine. It was so essential for their survival back then. And for us today, too. I fully believe that. So now, if we bridge this gap and go into modern day, Avalon has literally ascended. Just like we say that Earth is ascending from third to fifth dimension, Avalon is in a higher vibrational dimension right now. This being said, it has imprints on our current third dimensional plane and also in the inner earth realms. And by that, I mean there are aspects of it still here. So if you were to go to United Kingdom, you could literally go to Glastonbury and get a lot of the original Avalon energy there and connect through dimensional portals into Avalon. That is one of the most direct ways to do that. You can also simply reach out I would reach out to Morgan. She is, for me, the strongest ally and asset to Avalon. Merlin is coming through as supremely strong in that avenue as well. And literally ask them to guide you into Avalon. And also, I'm going to tweak my own YouTube channel. You can go to Carol Weakland's Sacred Avalon Fairy Whisperer on YouTube, and I lead people to Avalon every week. So you can come in through that as well. And you might say, why would I want to do that? There is so much to be learned right now from the teachers. They are reaching out to us so that we literally can help Gaia, our Mother Earth, in her ascension right now. And this is what the fairies, that are here on Earth as well, are wanting us to learn, that the more we connect into mystery school teachings that teach us about the connectedness of, for instance, people to trees. Trees are such tremendous healers. You can literally right now, if you're having a bad day, go and lean against a tree. And that tree has a spirit and also fae that work with it to help it. And together, the spirit of the tree and the fae will literally balance you from head to toe. And this is anyone can do this. The same thing, as I said, with gazing upon a flower. You're literally looking at the essence of the flower and you're connecting to the spirit of the flower, the joy of the fae that's a part of that flower. They're saying, please keep reiterating, these are the lessons taught in Avalon. And Avalon is also saying, please tell them that we teach about peace. We are all about creating peace and unification on the earth plane. So these are some of the different mysteries that are taught there in Avalon.
Thank you so very much for that as well. Okay, and because there's so much to this particular type of work, right? So let's just go to when you, I suppose, had to go to a reawakening again. So I guess it's like phase 2, right, where you wrote your books, and obviously how many books as well. So let's get to that part, because you wasn't sort of connecting like this, was you, for a long part of your life until phase 2 happened?
Phase 2, as you said, really was after the books started to be writing, and by that I mean the Morgen of Avalon series. I started getting guidance that I needed to get the message out, not just through the books, but also through classes. And, right now it would be like, webinars and workshops that are online, but just going out and teaching in so many different ways. As I mentioned, I also do these performances. I perform about 20 different one-woman shows, and some of them link in, to the fairy teachings, to Avalon and Morgen of Avalon. This story is one of them as well. So this is all part of phase 2. Coming here to Anahata was yet another layer. This is the spiritual community I'm at right now, where we have the small bandwidth, but it is up high in the mountains. Oh my goodness, now the mountains are coming through. So I know this might be difficult to wrap minds around, but mountains are spiritual beings, and they very much connect to the earth fae. And for those of us that are very, very keen on raising vibration and the ascension process right now, one of the greatest things you can do if you cannot be on a mountain is to literally get a picture of a mountain out and commune with it, stare at it, meditate with it, feel into the mountain, and literally see the spirit of the mountain as you stare at it. And realize this is a being that is here to work with us and to raise vibration higher and higher and higher. So the reason why I went off on that tangent, one of the reasons in being moved to this area, at least for now, I don't know that this is forever, but for this moment in time, is to bring that vibration up, but to share this knowledge of mountains. And apparently there's going to be a children's book they're showing me right now associated with this as well. So I already do like a magic of trees class. I'm going to be apparently doing a magic of mountains as well. That's coming through. So all of this, Kevin, is phase 2. It's bringing the message out in so many different ways, and connecting with more and more people like yourself, who will then share it with others. And, perhaps then they will pick up a book or tune into, the YouTube channel, or get a fairy reading or one of those things. And that helps them, further connect to the work I'm doing. And that can take that yet another step further out. But yes, they're showing this like ripples of a pond, starting with the book and then moving out through all these different aspects that I just mentioned to you, reaching out to more and more people.
Absolutely. And how many books have you written?
I have to think on that. There are 3 Avalon series. There also are 3 plays called the Arthurian trilogy. There are I have a young adult series called The Adventures of Maid Marian that just has 1 book to it so far. I'm working on the 2nd. There is Secrets of the Flower Fairies, the children's book, and then the Dragon's Breath book, which literally is going out to publishers right now, looking for a publisher. So yeah, those are all the ones that are out right now.
Okay.
And there's more to come.
There's more to come, right. And most of those are available on Amazon and other good bookstores, but I'll link some of those links in the description below as well. So, okay. And, if we were to speak to you to ask questions to the elementaries, does it depend what type of elementary comes through, or what connection you're going to bring through for depending on who's asking the question, in a sense?
It really does. The being is connected to one element stronger than others. Okay, so I'm getting a signal saying that you might not have heard that. Did you hear that? Okay, wonderful. Okay, so for instance, meeting someone, for the first time, I might see they're very strong in the earth element and they're needing more fire element. That would be they're very grounded in this earth plane. They might have some really fantastic goals, but they're not bringing them forth. So, in the reading I would be giving them, I would be suggesting then connecting to the fire elementals who then help you with that divine push. It's a very spiritual divine push from the fire fae that would help propel you forward. And that's just like one example right there.
Thank you for that example. And obviously, you've been on, doing this for a number of years right now, and we are in a time, as you say, of great change. So obviously, a bit of a difficult subject, but I want to speak about it. A lot of people have lost their homes through different what we call Mother Nature kind of problems. Maybe they've lost them through wildfire, or it's been through hurricanes, or whatever it may be. But most recently, a lot of people have lost a lot through the California fires as well. And when you look at these fires, what would your guys say about these types of incidences?
Thank you. That is such an important thing to talk about right now. And they want me to begin by saying such, we all are sending such divine love and blessings to everyone right now. If you're in the midst of this, if you are watching this unfold, to everyone. Now, that being said, the message that comes through is from Gaia herself, and I work with Gaia quite a bit. And people might say, what do you mean by Gaia? And Gaia is our divine Mother Earth. And it might be a difficult concept to think about, but the Earth literally is a living being. And she, if you look at her, is what we call a throne, which is a very high dimensional angel, an angelic being, who basically she is planet that we are on, and her heart, her essence is in the center of that planet. So what we are here to do right now, as human beings on this earth, is to really assist her in this time. Now, what comes through from Gaia is that these things that are happening are very natural occurrences, and they might seem absolutely horrific. They are kinds of cleansing that are being brought forth on this earth bird. If you're not familiar with that, you might, have some experience with the Harry Potter stories and remembering Fawkes the Phoenix, Professor Dumbledore's bird, and how it will basically die, go into the ashes, and then be reborn. This is the analogy they're showing right now for the fires that happened earlier this year in Australia, and are now basically, they're saying it's an echo that is being rebirthed here now in the United States. It is a natural cleansing that is not only affecting people, it is nature itself. You will see trees that are thousands of years old that are being brought down right now. Very ancient beings, animals that have died, people that are displaced, homes burnt. What comes forth is, out of the ashes will be reborn the new earth. And the same is true when you have a hurricane. This is the water elementals. they are all about working with our emotions. And so when you have an excess of water that is hitting a particular area, this is literally balancing and releasing the emotions in that area. When that water withdraws, there is a balancing that takes place. They're wanting me to address earthquakes. This is now, once again, the earth elementals at work, and Gaia herself, her groans. I am saying this now because I know Gaia would not say it, but so many injustices have been heaped upon Gaia throughout time. And it's not necessarily us that have done it. It is people who have not understood what they are doing, and some who do understand. So, as I preface the idea that way, Gaia has been abused terribly, and these things that are happening are natural responses that must occur for all of us to ascend from third to fifth dimension right now. And so, once again, now that that is said, I and Gaia and all the elementals are sending love and blessings to everyone who is going through this right now, and those who are watching it and so caught up in it right now. Absolute love, healing, and blessings to one and all.
I suppose there's, when something is as terrible as, losing everything in a home fire, something like the Oregon fires.
Yes.
There has to be some. I guess we have to try to see at some point after we've sort of on our way to heal from that, and that takes time to heal from an experience like that. But then there has to be something positive we can take from it. And I'm sure for some people there is, but obviously for anyone that's that's obviously in that process or has lost someone, that's going to be very, very difficult to even think that way.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe for some people
Yes.
it's the only way that they're going to move on and do something different with themselves, or maybe to even appreciate just everything they've got. There could be a lot of reasons why,
This is very true.
Yeah.
Yes. And you're right. Sometimes that is the thing that is necessary, the catalyst, the ultimate catalyst for change and transformation. Everyone is so individual, unique. It would be different for each person involved, what that ultimately is going to mean to them as they're experiencing that.
And again, it doesn't need to be the Oregon, it doesn't need to be California fires. It can be just the COVID and everything that's, changed in people's lives with financially, just with that. It can be so many things, can't it? That are related to, this type of work that you do. When you look at the spirit side. Right.
So with the COVID, and I'm sure people that listen to you have heard this before, and they have a divine knowing of this as well. It really is the opportunity for us to go within and truly connect with the divine and our higher self during this time apart. It depends if you are once again in that point where you really can't be out at a work situation or, doing the things you used to do. It's so critical to take those times and talk to the divine and say, what is it I am to be doing throughout this? How am I giving back?
Yes.
Yep. So, yes.
Absolutely. So what you call or would term as fairies, which, you feel that you're, connected with, and you're guidance and all sorts of wonderful information that you're able to bring through, right? Would you be surprised if it was something other than that type of understanding, or is what you're describing it as only sort of human words for something that is beyond our conception?
That's a super point. You're right on par. Thank you. Yes. So when we talk about fairies and we're thinking, like a little winged creature flitting about, that would be about as far from reality as possible, they're saying. Fairies are energy beings, so they have no physical form until they decide to take one. And traditionally, what they will do is approach a person, scan them up and down to see how open they are to an encounter with an elemental, and also how well they treat nature and animals and plants and flowers, trees, etc. And if they deem it a good match, then they will show themselves, but it might be as sparkles of light. It might be as an animal that stares at you in a very unusual way. It could be as another person. They can shapeshift literally into anything. So as we're talking about a concept of fairies and whether or not it might be something completely, beyond what I believe I'm communicating with, I do feel that there is always additional layers to learning about anything. And I do believe that in past lives I have been both what we call a dryad, which would be a tree fairy, and a water fae, a mermaid. So both of those have strong connections for me. I am so strongly connected to trees. So, I know this is going over long, so we'll kind of finish it there.
Okay,
but
final question though. If anyone's thinking, where can I find fairies, or that type of entity, if people are thinking, I haven't got the ability to tune in, as Carol has, and I've heard of, people that have, have written books, shall I say, that have sort of discover places where these entities might reside. But have you ever heard of a place where they are based, or where you find them more?
What a great question. They're everywhere that there is nature. So when you think about, my original definition that they are energy beings sent by the divine to act as a guardian to an animal, plant, flower, rock, tree. And just as we have guardian angels, people do, every animal, for instance, has 2 guardian fairies who watch over it. So, to answer your question, every flower has a fairy, every tree has multiple fairies, every aspect of nature, every rock, the grass, the dirt, the sky, the water, all of these beings, fire itself, all of the elements, there are fairies. So anytime you're in nature, you can connect with them, and they are wanting to connect with you. Now, quickly to answer the other question, can you find them in any particular place? There are certain places on Earth that have more fairies than others, okay? So upstate New York, for instance, has a very high fairy population here in the United States. The area I'm at right now has a very high population. Certainly, if you go to the UK, throughout the UK, fairies, literally, they're saying even in the city parks, of course they are, they're everywhere. Throughout the world, they're saying where people believe in us, we tend to congregate in stronger numbers, but they will be anywhere that you have nature. Okay, that was a very long answer, but complicated question. So,
obviously, as you're, as you sort of, got more and more into this work right now, where do you see yourself going with this then? I mean, what's your sort of goals in the short term for what you're doing right now?
Well, I definitely see the books going out to more and more people. That is what they keep showing me, that this is taking off in that respect. So the author aspect is going to come out stronger and stronger. And I believe as a result, the message is going out to more and more people that way. But also, I see this happening in the YouTube channel. I have more and more people tuning in each week, with the different videos. So I think it's just continuing on through this time of, for us, it's still very much COVID, where I'm stationed at. So um, just continuing on and offering people alternative spiritual things to look at, experience, and uplift themselves if they're so inclined, by participating in.
Also, I'd just like to ask as well, when it comes to healing, if someone is not really wanting to, look into where they're at right now, or it's not such a case of like, they've got choices to make. It's more of a case of they've got a health issues of some sort. I mean, are they able to come to you for that as well?
Absolutely. I also do traditional Reiki and what we call rainbow healing, which the rainbow kind of harkens back to Lemuria, which you started off with. And then the Reiki is Japanese, a Japanese healing technique. And then also, we can talk about healing with the Fae. So we've already talked about how you do that with a tree. Fairies in general are tremendous healers, and they are more than willing to work with people who have open minds and hearts. So they want me to say that with exclamation points. Keep your eyes open if you're being gifted, like I said, with a rock, which would be earth fairy, a flower essence, a leaf from a tree, a feather, all those different things. Those would be the fairies wanting to work with you. And tremendous healing and inspiration can follow.
Now, I'm sure you mentioned at one conversation we had at some point about there's a sort of inner tradition realm as well, isn't there? Like an inner earth realm that you mentioned.
Yes. Yes. And, Kevin, this is fairly new to me too. I'd say it's only been within the last year that I've become aware of this. As I've done more and more work with Gaia, I'm finding that there are imprints. That's the best way I can talk about it. I'm not sure that is the correct terminology, but for me, there's an imprint of Avalon there. There's an imprint of Lemuria. People will say, but Lemuria is also Mount Shasta, which definitely, that as well. But yes, there are these inner earth civilizations that if you do a lot of work going down into Gaia, once again, I'm going to tout my YouTube channel, Carol Weakland, Sacred Avalon, Fairy Whisperer. We do many, many walks into inner earth. And you can truly, at those times, connect with those beings. Interesting. They're wanting me to bring up Admiral Byrd, all the exploration he did. Wow, do they want me to bring that up? He literally connected with inner earth in his time and was not allowed to say anything. The government kept him from saying about it. But literally, his papers have come out since his death. And you can read all about his inner earth experiences.
There's a lot on your website as well. And just remind us of your website, please.
Yes, the website is everythingfairy.co.
Well, we've been linking that on the screen and obviously in the description below as well. What would you say is an important message to leave us with?
Well, it's Avalon coming through right now, and they're giving me a mantra for everyone. So I hope that is appropriate. They're saying peace now and forever, Peace blanket the earth. Peace be upon all beings and peoples throughout eternity. And that is one of their peace rituals. And so, what I would say is, may everyone listening to this wonderful Kevin Moore show be blessed with an abundance of love, light, and peace now and forevermore. And may you always know that there are inner realms, such as the Fey realm, such as Avalon, that are simply waiting for you to step through a portal. And you go there and you can receive incredible knowledge and healing. And blessings are saying as well. And that's what I leave you with.
Well, Carol, just thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Kevin.